Hello, and you're very welcome to this special event to mark the second anniversary of the Open Doors Initiative, which works with government, non-government organisations and with business to help people from marginalised backgrounds and communities to gain employment access. Now, some of those groups are refugees, asylum seekers, non-native English speakers, young people facing educational and other barriers, and also people with a disability. And we're hoping to be joined this morning by the Tánaiste and Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment, Leo Varadkar, because he has been a big supporter of the Open Doors Initiative from the get-go. Now, he can't be with us physically here today, unfortunately, because he's restricting his movements on foot of a negative COVID test and in line with public health guidelines. But he's hoping to join us via a link, and that's, I suppose, to coincide with this milestone for the organisation, and he's very supportive of its objectives to achieve inclusive workplaces. We are, though, joined in studio here today by two people who've worked for or who have benefited from the Open Doors Initiative. 23-year-old Brandon King has received mentoring from the Open Doors Initiative, and Dr. Lara O'Muirithe has been a disability advisor for Open Doors. Now, we were also supposed to be joined by another individual who had a personal experience of the Open Doors Initiative, a 43-year-old Sakuli, who's originally from Zimbabwe and is a mother of three, but unfortunately she can't join us today to talk to us about the training that she received from the Open Doors Initiative. Why? Well, she has a very good reason. The best reason of all, she has just got a new job as a healthcare worker. And the very best of luck to her, but that really reinforces the value and contribution of the Open Doors Initiative to helping people from different backgrounds get jobs and gain employment experience. Now, we'll be talking later to the Chief Executive of the Open Doors Initiative, Jan Mcdonough, and before we start, we would also like to say thank you to Wilson Hartnell and also to Fuel for putting this event together today. So now it's time to get down to the official proceedings and to begin, and to give us an insight into the work of the Open Doors Initiative over the last 2 years, and also the progress and work that is needed to achieve more inclusive workplaces. Will you please welcome the Chair of the Open Door Initiative, Oliver Looms.
Hello everyone, I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and welcome to Open Doors Day. I want to start with some welcomes, if I may. First of all, it's my great pleasure, technology allowing, and it looks like it's working, to welcome on Tánaiste Leo Varadkar, who launched actually 2 years ago the Open Doors Initiative. I remember it well down in Accenture offices. So it's absolutely great to have Leo Varadkar back with us again today. I wanted to welcome and thank the chair of our discussion, the very excellent journalist and author Martina Fitzgerald. And again, I want to welcome and thank our brilliant representatives today, Lara and Brandon. They are simply inspirational, I have to say. And I want to thank them before we start sincerely for being here today to share their experiences with all of us. They're very fine examples of what can be achieved when people are given the opportunities they need to shine. I also want to welcome our member companies and organisations that have embraced the work of the Open Doors Initiative so willingly and are genuine in their intent and actions towards creating more equal and more diverse workplaces for all. And lastly, I want to welcome the companies and organisations that are not currently members, but who are with us today to find out more about our work. And I am confident that when you hear about the experiences of both employees and employers today, you'll have no doubts about signing up as members. As many of you, hopefully all of you know, the Open Doors Initiative works with industry, with government and with NGOs to create pathways to employment for marginalised groups. And the people we work with three groups: refugees, asylum seekers and migrants, young people from marginalised backgrounds, and people with disabilities. And in Ireland today, these groups face higher barriers to unemployment than most others. To give you some examples, there's over 70% unemployment rate amongst people with disabilities, over 70%. And although many refugees and asylum seekers in Ireland have been given the right to work, they're unable to access the training and the experience. And then the long-term unemployment rate amongst under 25s is twice the national average, so much work to be done. And so it was that in September 2018, 14 Irish employers came together with a plan to support people from these three areas, these three groups in Irish society, and help them to get into employment. That group of 14 employers initially has now grown to almost 80 organisations, and it continues to expand positively. Over the last year, the Open Doors initiative has opened the labour market to over 2,300 people who had been unable to access it before. Fantastic, I think. That's a great number, but more needs to be done. And as we mark 2 years since the inception of the Open Doors initiative, we're calling today, Friday the 25th of September, Open Doors Day. And the purpose is a call to action for executives to involve their organisations in Open Doors and make the Irish workforce a more inclusive space for people across Irish society. We're all experiencing the challenges of COVID-19 and all of the knock-on implications of that for the Irish economy and Irish society, etc. We're seeing the global uncertainty, and we're seeing how disrupted life and business has become. But in times of recession, diversity and inclusion is more required and more needed than ever. And it's the organisations that really embed it in their natural and real way of doing business, who truly live that ethos, don't have it as a flag or a trinket for the good times and then discard it in the bad. It's those organisations that are the one which countless studies have shown will grow and thrive for the long term, along with their employees, their outputs and their reputation. So with the vision, the drive, the determination of everyone who's joined this webinar today and beyond, we want to create more supports, more education, more training programs, more internships, more jobs, more entrepreneurs. We want to help people find their place in Irish society and make it better for them and make it better for all of us, make it better for society. And we believe that to make this happen, we've got to amplify the success to date so that we can help even more people. We must reduce barriers to employment and create supports for people who need assistance. They need our help, they need our assistance, they need our support. And to this end, we commissioned research into these areas by Professor Tom Cooney of TU Dublin, and we're launching this research today. Thankfully, it's getting some good media pickup, and I wanted to thank Professor Cooney for this very insightful and enlightening piece of work. Effectively, it signposts the areas in which we can have the most impact, and it makes recommendations on how we can best approach it as business leaders, as NGOs, and as government. It's vital that these recommendations are ingrained in the way we work and in the way that we attract and retain talent and people, as well as helping those who fall outside the employment net. To drive real change within our workplaces, we need to, I believe, proactively look for those with different backgrounds, with different abilities, with different experiences, to make our businesses actually even better, more creative, better equipped to think laterally and to become more resilient. And in doing so, we'll make our companies and our organizations better places to work, with more enjoyable experiences for everybody. Our employees will become more engaged and more proud of where they work as a result of it. And our companies and our organizations will have better, more sustainable, more fruitful futures. So we all know change, you don't click your finger and this change happens. It doesn't happen overnight. It requires long-term and proactive planning. And it requires leadership from all of us. It means bringing the entire workforce on the journey. And as I've said, it leads to better workplaces, better outputs, better bottom lines, and ultimately a better society. I mean, everybody is a winner if we get this right. Everybody benefits. And again, I know nobody on this call thinks this, but it's not box ticking. This is simply equality. And people can see a company's truly held values as opposed to just lip service. And that's not just for the good times, but it's also for recessionary times right now, needed more than ever. We need government support to do this, that's for sure, and we are delighted to be working with a number of the departments on an ongoing basis. And again, I'd ask you to leverage your contacts, share our experiences as a group, and grow our work at the Open Doors initiative together. I want to finish by thanking all of you for all of your efforts in this really important space, and encourage you and your companies to do even more to increase your impactful work and to attain our goals. And we at Open Doors will do everything that we can to support you on that journey. Thank you.
And thank you, Oliver. And some interesting points you made there, that equality is not about box ticking. It's also not just for good times. It's also important during times of recession, which we're experiencing at the moment. And that's a strong message for those business and NGO leaders and employers who are joining us today from around the country. And they will also be listening intently to the message from government to make workplaces more inclusive during these difficult times. So without further ado, let's go over to our guest speaker, the Tánaiste Minister for Enterprise, Trade and Employment, Leo Varadkar.
Hello everyone, good to see you, Martina. It's been a long time. Hope you're doing well. Is that just backing for me or for everyone? I'm sort of hearing my voice twice.
No, I think you're okay.
Okay, I'll just go on. It's obviously just on my side. As you might have heard, I'm restricting my movements at the moment. One of the people I worked with tested positive for coronavirus on Monday, but I'm fine and still able to do pretty much all my work with the help of technology. Really glad to see Oliver there earlier on, and just on another note, want to say thanks to Diageo, the company, for helping out our publicans and restaurateurs in the last couple of days in Dublin and Donegal, who've found out that they've had to close and have been stuck with kegs and all sorts of things and extra supplies and issues. And I know Diageo's been very helpful with that. Good to see Jan on the call as well, doing a great job as CEO. And I think David Stanton's with us too, so I hope to hear from him later on. So really on behalf of the government, just delighted to be with you to mark Open Doors Day 2020. This is the second anniversary, as you know, of the initiative, and I was really honoured to launch it back in 2018. Can't remember if it was in Accenture actually or the Storehouse. The Storehouse might have been a different event. Of course, a lot has changed since 2018 in terms of employment and the economy. And I remember back then we were really entering a period of what we thought was full employment, and we thought was going to be full employment for a long time. And from the government's point of view, we were very keen to work with any group that wanted to help activate marginalised people, get them into the workforce, not just for reasons of equality, but also because we had labour shortages in our economy and needed more people working in pretty much all sections of it. So it was about workforce, but it was also about social inclusion. We are now obviously in a very different picture. We're back into mass unemployment, about 15% of people out of work at the moment, falling, but we don't know if it'll continue to fall. That'll depend on whether restrictions are needed in other parts of the country, and if so, for how long. So in many ways, it makes the task that you're doing all the more important, because in a period of relatively high unemployment, those from minority backgrounds are probably going to find it that bit harder to get into the workforce and to find employment. And in many ways, that means having to redouble your efforts, but we'll be there to assist you with that. As you know, this partnership brings together government, brings together business, brings together NGOs to try and resolve some of the issues and remove some of the barriers to employment that a lot of people face. One group that we talk about is, of course, migrants. A lot of people in Ireland come from other countries. 17% of us are born overseas, but that doesn't tell the full story, of course, because many people are born to Irish parents overseas and come home, but have a very large migrant population in total in Ireland, and a very diverse migrant population as well, in terms of where they come from, skill sets, educational backgrounds, all of that, very different to other countries where migration tends to be just from one or two or three countries. In Ireland, it's much more broad-based. What I'm sure of as Tánaiste, as a member of the government, is that migrants make a huge contribution to our society and to our country. Areas like our health service simply would not function without people coming from overseas to work in it. And when I go into big tech companies like Google and Facebook, I see people from all over the world working there. And I'm not sure we would attract as much foreign direct investment into Ireland were it not for the fact that we have a diverse workforce. And I want to make sure that we continue to be a country that is open to talent, that welcomes migration, welcomes people from other parts of the world who come here legally, who are willing to obey our laws, and are willing to make a contribution through the work that they do. So I know David Stanton is here, and he'd be very much across the migration integration strategy that we produced back in 2017. And that was part of that was about making it easier for people to access the workforce and to get employment if they came from other countries. One thing we've done in the past couple of years, which I'm really glad we've done, is streamline and make it easier for people to become citizens. And I know among the ceremonies that I most like attending are those citizenship ceremonies, because you meet so many people who are so glad to have become Irish citizens, that really value what that means and know how great our country is, notwithstanding its many problems. And it's a really heartwarming ceremony to attend. And I'd say to anyone, go along if you ever can. If you have an employee who's becoming a citizen, attend that event. It'll really, really lift your spirits and really make you more positive and more appreciative about the great country that we live in. Among things we've been doing, as you know, is making it easier for people who've applied for international protection to enter the labour market. People often were caught in limbo for years, waiting for a decision on their application and not able to work. And that has changed. You can now apply for a work permit after 9 months. And already over 5,000 of those permits have been issued by my department. And 4,000 of those 5,000 were staying in accommodation sectors. Many still find it hard to get work, so more needs to be done in that space, but it's good that that opportunity now exists. And we've seen Catherine Day's report on it and how we can make that a bit better. And I imagine we'll adopt most of her recommendations in that regard, maybe not having to wait 9 months, perhaps making it easier to hold a permit for longer, being able to change employer, those types of things. But of course, we need to bear in mind that we are part of a common travel area. We are part of a European system on migration, and we can't and shouldn't do things that might create pull factors, because the vast majority of people who come to Ireland come here with a visa, with a work permit, or as European nationals. And it wouldn't be fair to say to all those people who go to the trouble of getting a work permit or a work visa through the normal means that you can arrive here, claim asylum and get it through another means. That wouldn't be fair on anyone, and we won't allow that. One thing we're going to do as well, and it's in the programme for government, is to set a target for people from migrant backgrounds or ethnic minority backgrounds for employment in the public and civil service. Take the health service, for example, loads of people from all over the world working in that. Not so much the case when it comes to the civil service, when it comes to the Gardaí, when it comes to the judiciary, when it comes to a lot of the state agencies, the army, when it comes to education as well. It's very rare you see a school principal, for example, or a guard inspector or a judge from a migrant background. And that's not right. And that's why we're going to set targets, or at least a soft target for people from migrant backgrounds getting that type of employment in the public sector. Because as somebody's often said before, if you can't see it, you can't be it. And that's something that we definitely need to change and want to change in the period ahead. When it comes to young people from disadvantaged backgrounds, given the economic situation we're in, we've made a big effort to increase the number of third level and further education places available this year, 5,000 extra available this year, meaning that more young people will go to college or into further education this year than ever, and more people from non-traditional backgrounds getting in than ever before. And I think that's going to pay off for us in the longer term, both in terms of the quality of our society and the strength of our economy. But it can be a very difficult area. A lot of young people lack qualifications. lack of skills and experience, sometimes have poor personal or interpersonal skills, face peer pressure, don't have the family encouragement to work or take up education and do well, and sometimes have low levels of self-confidence. So we need to put in place schemes and programs that can help with that. And I think the YES scheme is starting to show some good results in that regard. Connected to that, Minister Harris is to the forefront of encouraging more people to consider apprenticeships as a career. We want to get up to 10,000 apprentices a year, making some good progress on that. And have now brought an incentive for employers to take on and keep on apprentices. I'm really trying to say to people, especially this time of year when young people are waiting on their CAO and CAS offers, the college is great, but it isn't everything. There are other options, and apprenticeship can give you a really good qualification and a really good career and a well-paid, secure job in the long term. I want more people to think about that as an option. That isn't all about college, which it sometimes feels a bit like that in Ireland, and that's not right. Finally, just to mention the whole issue of people with disabilities. I'm not sure it's exactly correct that 70% of people with disabilities are out of work. That does depend on how you define disability. That might be the case for people on disability allowance or disability benefit, but that's a particular subgroup of people with disabilities. But what is unquestionable is a lot of people with disabilities find it hard to work, to get employment, and also there are many people with disabilities who want to work but aren't able to access the workplace for various different reasons. We are pushing ahead with our Make Work Pay program, which came through from the last government, and that means giving people who have a disability and are on a medical card, sometimes they're afraid that they'll lose it, giving them the assurance that that won't happen. So others are afraid that if they try work and it doesn't work out, that they'll find it hard to get back on their disability payment. Streamline that so that isn't the case anymore. There's still a fear, but not one that bears through in reality. Extending things like the travel pass, and also providing adaptation grants and subsidies for employers to take on more people with disabilities, and raising employer awareness around that as well. I do think one of the positives from the pandemic is the adoption of remote working. We've probably come in the space of 20 weeks, what we thought would take 2, 3, 5, 10 years in terms of getting everyone to get used to and adopt remote working and video conferences. And I think that's actually a huge opportunity for people with disabilities, because being able to work from home some of the time or all of the time could open up opportunities for a lot of them. And we should definitely seize this opportunity now that we've adopted digital and virtual practices to make sure that remote working and home working enables more people with disabilities to get jobs and get good jobs too. So to sum up, these are immensely challenging times, but we have made some progress in the last couple of years since the initiative was founded. It's all about providing opportunity and equality of opportunity for people with disabilities, for people from migrant backgrounds, for young people who are disadvantaged, to support them into work. And that, as Oliver says, is something that will benefit us all in the round. And a program and partnership the government is really pleased and really proud to be associated with. So thanks for what you've done so far. Because of where we are, I need you to redouble your efforts now. I know you're going to do that, and we'll be behind you all the way. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Tánaiste, and thank you for joining us while you are restricting your movements. And I know you're going to be joining our panel discussion and perhaps giving some career advice to Lara and Brandon. But first, let's take a view of a video which will feature some personal testimonies of some of the employers who are working in partnership with the Open Door initiative. And as Tánaiste mentioned, it would also feature the former Minister of State with responsibility for equality, David Stanton, and he was instrumental and very supportive of the need to set up of an organisation that works with government, that works with non-government organisations and with business to help people from marginalised communities gain employment experience. So let's take a look.
We have so many companies involved now, so many people benefiting and being supported by companies out there, and I want to thank the companies for doing that. And I know that they themselves are benefiting so much from it in every way. I've met some of the companies, and they're getting great satisfaction from doing this, from helping other people. And you know what? Society as a whole is benefiting as well from this, as are the people who are at a disadvantage out there in society. They're getting a leg up and a hand up, and that's fantastic. This is really positive. Great, good news story.
Why do we believe it's important for marginalised groups to have access to the Open Doors initiative? It can be difficult for those in those groups to access employment, to even see opportunities. So the Open Doors initiative, given the great job that Jan and the team have done to structure it, but also the ability to bring such a diverse group of employers together from all over the country, from so many industries, just allows again those doors to be opened, for people to be able to see those jobs, and for those people to be able to find a way to access employment quickly.
It creates the platform and that feeling of togetherness and collaboration. You can always lean into your colleagues, peers within the organizations that are working together for the same cause, helping the root cause and bringing things further towards the policy changes that are so needed in this context.
So it gave us an opportunity to bring some people on board that have really added an awful lot to our company and our culture and everything else, and our performance, quite frankly. So I suppose for us, performance is very, very, very important. People are the root of that performance, and you know, the different people that we've been working with since we joined Open Doors have really enhanced the whole culture of the company.
As one of the 14 founding partners, we really believed in the mission of Open Doors in terms of helping those who are maybe marginalised in society from work, and particularly, I suppose, given the cohorts that Open Doors really looks out for, those who are, you know, have disabilities, refugees, and the long-term youth unemployed. And it would have always been very important to us and our people to give back to society. And I think it really brought together a purpose that really aligned to our values.
It's just, you know, in terms of involvement in the community, business has a huge role to play in terms of responsibility and what people can bring to not just the company, but to broader society. So I suppose from the standpoint of the people that are now working with us, one of our very talented staff who's in our data processing operation, and now we've discovered he has amazing IT ability. He's gained an awful lot of confidence having worked at the company for a period of time, and I think that the confidence is huge. It's also encouraged him to do other things that he might not have done if he hadn't had the chance to have a job and interact with people and work as part of a team and be a high-performing person within that team. So I think it's the business, and that's critically important, but it's also what the people that are working with us that are part of Open Doors are able to bring to society.
It's actually a pathway for employment. It definitely helps them to have that accessibility at their hand, understanding that these organizations are welcoming diversity and inclusion for some of those minorities that probably are at more necessity or need.
I would say just do it. I really believe that more than ever, all of us as employees and as workers want to feel that we are contributing to society. It's more important than ever to people that they see that their company cares about others and cares about creating a society where there's opportunities for everybody. And I think there's so many different ways that you can make a difference in small and big ways through the Open Doors. It doesn't have to be a huge big bang, but I think even taking that first step and getting yourself involved will really make a difference to your organisation and to your people.
Well, we heard the value of the Open Doors initiative and also of inclusive workplaces from employers, from the Tánaiste previously, and also some of those who are running the Open Doors initiative. Now it's time to hear from those who have benefited or who are working with Open Doors. And we're joined today by Brandon King, who's 23 years old and he currently works as a personal trainer. He's also in the process of qualifying as a boxing coach, and he has completed a course in buying and merchandising. He's a very busy guy and he has lots of ambitions and plans. He wants to set up his own company, he wants to buy shares in a gym, and he also wants to go back to college and upskill, and he has received mentoring from the Open Doors initiative, and I bet he's kept them busy. We're also joined by Lara O'Muirithe, and she has worked as a disability advisor with Open Doors. She's also the co-founder of Dyspraxia Ireland Book Club for children and young people with specific training differences, and Lara has a PhD in English and philosophy of art, and as a graduate teaching assistant she is passionate about diversity and inclusion, not only in the classroom but also in the workplace. Okay, I'm going to head to you, and the Tánaiste is going to join our conversation. Brandon, can you tell us how you got involved in Open Doors and how you heard of it first and what value it was to you?
First, I'll start saying thank you very much for having me and getting the opportunity to work with you. I was in contact with my uncle who works in IDA, and he'd heard about Open Doors, so he'd got in contact with Jan and put me in contact through that way. And then I started to have a chat with her and started to understand what you did and how you can benefit from me. So at the start I didn't really know much about Open Doors, and then I got talking and I realised how they can benefit me and what way they were going to help me to put a plan in place moving forward.
And what's the best piece of advice you got during the mentoring?
One of the best pieces of advice I've got was off Mark Coulton, the guy I was working with from AIB. He was telling me that a lot of, your goal doesn't have to be now, which I think is a big problem nowadays with young people, is everyone wants to be successful now. With everything so easy through your phones, you can see that these kids are just making videos. Something so simple as YouTube are making millions, and they're already about 18. Some kids opening toys at 6, and you feel like you're behind in life. So one thing that I got from him was he made me realize that not everyone's goal is for now. Look at it as a longer term goal. And that made me realize that a lot can be done over 5-10 years instead of trying to get that done in 1 year.
You're only 23, and you have a lot of plans and ambitions. What's the ultimate goal at this stage?
Well, see, one thing that I always found very valuable in life is making people happy. One thing that really pushed me with the whole fitness industry is my auntie used to have a bit of extra weight, and before her wedding she actually lost a lot of the weight, and I saw how happy it made her feel and how much of a better, happier person she was, and that made me really want to enjoy that in life and want to make people happy. So when I found that you can get satisfaction from your job, that makes it a lot easier. That makes it a lot more easy to get to work.
And also make a living.
Yeah, making good money is obviously half the battle as well, nowadays, especially with the higher prices in houses.
So you feel it was a benefit to you?
Yeah, when I found out that you can make people happy through work instead of just going in to get a wage, it really did push me. And that's what I found a little bit harder with workplaces, because sometimes it is you go in and it's just to make money or just to do your 9 to 5 and get home. So it's trying to really break down the door and trying to find a way that I can help people.
And Lara, you have been a disability advisor for the Open Doors, and you've worked with people with disabilities. Can you tell us about your work with them and what advice you have given them?
Yeah, that's right. So I joined the Open Doors initiative team during the COVID crisis as an independent consultant. So my job primarily was to consolidate the research and all of the literature to date that Open Doors initiative had achieved and try to reconfigure that for a new COVID context. What can we do in a crisis? What interventions can we make now? And this runs the whole gamut from kind of everyday social skills and onboarding through to larger economic concerns during recession and all of this.
And what are the challenges facing people with disabilities? I know one solution or one issue doesn't fit all. There are different issues for different people with different disabilities. Can you talk to us about some of the challenges?
I think there remains a huge stigma despite strides that we've made societally. There remains a stigma and ignorance. So the best remedy for ignorance is research excellence, and this is why I loved working for Open Doors initiative. They have an emphasis on best research practices, and this involves also oral history and testimony from people with impairments or specific learning differences. We need to realize that people with disabilities are experts in their own lives. So what we need are accommodations, and these accommodations have to be customizable. They have to be adjustable, and there has to be an open and ongoing dialogue between employers and employees, and this way people can thrive.
Fergus Finlay, who once chaired a discussion on employment of people with disabilities, he said for every one employer who's willing to take someone on with disability, 10 others won't. So what case would you make to employers to take on someone with a disability?
Well, I would say, firstly, you have to take ownership. You have to question your assumptions. If you're one of the 9 in 10 who are more reticent, you have to think, well, what are my underlying assumptions, and then compare that to the actual research, because these problems are not often to do with actual impairments. It's more to do with the kind of lack of scaffolding in the workplace. So a few adjustments can make great change.
And if you were in Leo Varadkar's office or in his home at the moment and you were the Tánaiste, what would you bring? What would be the one thing you'd want to bring in to help people with disabilities gain employment?
Universal design in the workplace, so that there are no barriers, be they physical or virtual. This way everyone is on an equal playing field and people can bring their best selves to work.
Okay, Tánaiste, what would you say, first of all, your advice to our two guest speakers this morning? What would you say to Brandon, who's starting off, who's lots of ideas, who is getting mentoring, but is facing also challenges?
Yeah, well, just first of all, I'd say I'm a big fan of universal design. I hadn't even heard of it about 2 years ago until I met a lecturer, one of our ITs, who convinced me or told me all about it. And certainly any new workplace or any new building, definitely, and then retrofit it where possible too. And it's not just for disability. Even people with early stage dementia, other conditions can benefit hugely from that. Autism too. Advice, I'm always reluctant to give people advice. I've had such a random career, and I don't yet know how it's going to end. So I'm not sure I'm qualified. But I think it sounds to me like Brandon's doing a great job and doesn't need much advice. So well done. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, we know where you're going to be in roughly 2 years' time, perhaps back in the Taoiseach's office. But Leo Varadkar, you started out as a doctor. What would you say to Brandon, who is considering setting up a business, taking shares in a gym, or going back to college? What kind of things should he be considering? Because he's not going to get this opportunity, perhaps, to talk to someone like you again.
Well, first of all, I'd say do it. I know the leisure and fitness industry is going through a bit of a tough time now, and falls under level 3 and level 4 restrictions. But I still think it's going to be a growth industry into the future. People care about their health more, care about their appearance more, and it's an area in which I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities into the future. And when it comes to opportunities, they arise when they do, not when it suits you. So if you have the opportunity now, take it.
What would you say to people, young people in particular, who are facing a lot of pressure during COVID, and particularly in terms of employment? And I know it's not just young people, there are people from various different backgrounds. What would you say to them?
Yeah, what I say to them is all this will come to pass. I feel really bad for the Leaving Cert years and people in college at the moment. I still remember my Leaving Cert year, doing the exam, graduation, results night, the Debs, Freshers Week in college, J1. They've had none of that, and they're stuck at home, very often stuck with their parents. It's just really grim time. And I know at that age, I'm in my 40s now, so with age comes a bit of perspective. At that age, a summer or a year seems like a lifetime. When you're 40 something or 50 something, it's not so big a deal. But we are determined to make sure, both economically and in terms of public health, that COVID is going to cause a lost year and not a lost decade. And what I say to them is government is doing a load of things now to bolster the economy, to make sure that as many businesses and jobs survive as can survive, putting a lot of investment into education so that there are more education opportunities than ever before for young people who can't get work. And then secondly, because of technology, I do think, I am an optimist, I do think that in the first half of next year, between rapid testing, a vaccine, and better testing and tracing and learning more and more about the virus, we will see a return to a normal life. So what I say to them is, it may seem awful now, but as is the case with all bad things, they do come to pass, and things will be better again.
And just on the impact of COVID, Lara started out as a disability advisor for the Open Doors initiative during COVID-19. And obviously there will be pressure on businesses to keep their doors open at the moment, which you're dealing with. How can you persuade the employers and business leaders who are joining us this morning to also think in terms of greater inclusivity in their workplaces at this point in time?
Yeah, well, what we've tried to do in recent years is things like adaptation grants to help businesses adapt to enable them to hire somebody who's got a disability, particularly physical disability in that case. And there are wage subsidy schemes as well. But the uptake, and this has changed in the last couple of years, the uptake wasn't great, quite frankly. I remember in the Department of Social Protection, they were among the budgets that were underspent every year. And that's a real problem. So, I think we need to ask some employers to become champions and then convince other employers, because I think maybe employers have misapprehensions or worries or anxieties about taking on somebody with a disability that aren't real. And most people that I know who have taken on somebody with this disability have had a very positive experience. And if we could just maybe mainstream more of those examples, I think it would really help. But I'd be interested to hear from Lara's point of view. Like, I genuinely believe the move to remote working and home working is a big advantage or a big opportunity for people with disabilities. We're doing surveys now all the time, and just of the average population, about 10 or 15% kind of want to work from home forever now. About 10 or 15% are dying to get back to the office as soon as possible. And then somewhere in the middle is the majority who would like to move towards blended working, a mix of being in HQ or being in a remote working centre or being from home. And I just wonder how we can seize this opportunity of the dramatic change in our workplace and turn that into an opportunity for people with disabilities to get that job when they apply for it.
And Lara, would you like to come in on that?
Yeah, that's right. I think lots of people with chronic illnesses and other disabilities that they're managing for a long time have been shouting for this opportunity to work remotely or adopt a kind of blended, flexible approach. So in many ways, we really have to kind of seize what we've learned in a rapid amount of time and hold on to that so we can really, really create long-lasting change, to not forget everything we've learned during this hectic time.
And Brandon, do you want to ask the Tánaiste anything?
Yeah, I got told you have some problems in the gym as well, and I got recommended to invite you down to Blackrock. We work with hypoxia, boxing and strength and conditioning, so I'm sure we could help you out in some way.
Well, Tánaiste.
All right, yeah, no, I might take up on that. I have a few, I'm not sure what you mean about my problems in the gym, but I definitely have a few COVID kilos that I need to eliminate, so I'll take you up on that.
Okay, well, that's a deal done there. Thank you all to all our speakers, to Brandon and to Lara and the Tánaiste there. And Tánaiste, you missed it, but Security, who was also due to join our panel, wasn't able to be here today because she got a job as a healthcare worker, which proves and vindicates the work of the Open Doors initiative. I think you missed that at the beginning, but that is a positive story coming out of today. Now, last but not least, we're now going to hear from the Chief Executive, the woman who runs Open Doors initiative and who has worked and advocated for people from marginalised backgrounds to gain employment opportunities. And she is one of the reasons why so many employers are on board. And she is also one of the reasons why everybody is in this room today, or the Tánaiste is there remotely, because she is impossible to say no to. Will you please welcome Jan Mcdonough, who always works for a good cause.
Thank you, Martina. So I've got the worst job and the best job now, because worse that I have to follow everyone who's been speaking so brilliantly this morning and really, really inspiring stuff, so thank you. And the best that I get to wrap up so you can all go and have your lunch. So I really hope that this event gave you some idea of the work that we do and the amazing companies and supporting partners who bring it to life. We want to amplify this, and we want to help more people into employment. We would love for more companies and NGOs to collaborate with us and develop this work and this ethos, and thereby create the future of the workforce in Ireland, a really diverse and talented workforce. Please contact us. We'll work with you. We look forward to hearing from you, and I think the work will make a huge difference. Before I wrap up, I just want to say a few words of thanks to some really stellar people. To the Tánaiste, Varadkar, who once again has shown his support for us and our organisation and its participants in a really real way. And we're so grateful to you, and we look forward to working with you in the future and working with more of our participants as they grow and develop. Lara and Brandon and Sakuli, you are amazing advocates, and you bring hope and passion to so many others, and it's wonderful to hear you. And we will watch your careers as they blossom and grow, and we wish you all the very best in everything you do. Martina Fitzgerald has kindly shared her expertise and her skill with us on this memorable occasion. And she's a really wonderful supporter, and we really thank you sincerely, and we hope to work with you again in the future. To mention the work that we launched today, the research, Positive to Work SkillsNet have been a stalwart supporter of our work and kindly funded the research that we launched today. It's on our website, go check it out. And with Professor Tom Cooney, who carried out a really professional, detailed and informative piece of work. And we're very grateful for the support and encouragement from both of you, which gives a basis to the work we do. We really want to thank Fuel so much for putting together this whole mammoth production. We literally couldn't have done it without the crew. Thank you so much for your help and generosity and for answering all the questions. And there were so many questions. I'm nearly there. Pádraig Gallagher from Q4, who's worked hand in hand with Wilson Hartnell for this whole event, a spirit of collaboration we really endorse. Thank you for your advice and wisdom. We treasure you. The Wilson Hartnell team, led by the fantastic Sharon Murphy. Where would we be without you? From the conception to the logistics and all that goes with it. You're a really brilliant Open Doors partner and a company with a really great heart. The amazing, amazing Siobhan Sweeney and the small but mighty Open Doors teams. Eugene, Alan, Patrick, Craig, Jenna, Lara. There are no words. You are all so brilliant at what you do, and you care so passionately and so brilliantly for the people we work with. And they are at the heart of all we do, and you see that and get it. Finally, to all the companies, the NGOs, the organisations who are joining us today as part of the Open Doors Day, and we look forward to working with you on future projects and helping more people into employment. Thank you for your commitment, your belief and your inclusive practices, which make you really great places to work. We're extremely proud of what we've achieved so far. 2,300 people on pathways to work and a lot more to help. So let's grow the ethos of what we do, grow the organisation and grow our success to date. Thank you.